This is the Bonus Section Podcast, episode number 67. Stop blaming everyone else. Are you the type of person that knows you were meant for something greater in this lifetime and that somewhere inside of you, there's just this bigger version of yourself trying to break free? But in spite of all your self-development, you just can't seem to find the way up there to that goal. Well, then you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Bonus Section and the host of this podcast, and I'm just a person like you trying to learn how to live the most fulfilling life possible. Now, to help you take immediate action to get moving in a better direction, we take all the notes from each episode and we post them at freethinkingtools.com. freethinkingtools.com. We just have a writer go in there, they listen to this, and they get all the notes organized for you so that you can get the PDF download or access to them pretty easily. And you can sit there and think about this for yourself. That's all I'm trying to do here with this passion project, is get you to think. Think your way to better. It's not that hard, but you do have to spend some time doing it. All right. Stop blaming everyone else. I run into this all the time. I did it for years, right? I mean, always blaming other people and the circumstances that they caused me to be in. I get it. This is a really, really difficult thing to grow out of, but you must. You must do it if you want to live at least a more pleasant life, right? We're always fighting this and we want to be angry at people, and it's just not the right way to do this. So what's the first point? That emotional growth is one of the greatest challenges we will ever face. It is really difficult to grow up emotionally. You see, academically and intellectually, you can read the books. I mean, and then look, formal education to me, I don't care what people want to say. Oh, you don't need, college, you don't need this. I don't agree. I think those things are a wonderful part of the world that we live in. And I think they bring us a growth that is so unique. I mean, I remember my 4 years in college like it's yesterday as far as a structured 4 years and feeling so empowered by the concentrated learning. We have to stop knocking learning in its organization. I get it. It's goofy expensive. I don't know why. I agree that's a problem, but I believe in formal education. As long as it's not a procrastination to make a living and you keep blowing it off, to actually make a living, I'm a huge proponent of formal education. Please don't let people talk you off of it. It's not right, in my opinion. The next part, though, is self-education. One of the greatest things that I learned in college was to be a self-educator, to always be resourceful. I teach my kids now that even in between the classes in the classroom, pick up a book or something to read that is interesting to you. Your passion, pick it up, read about it. Because what's happening when we're learning academically, we're also being exposed to circumstances where, whether they're fictional or non-fictional characters, we can see that very thing being built. Character. That's a big part of what emotional intelligence is all about, is building our character. That when we are faced with adversities, how do we react? Do we stay stuck in being that child that we grew up to be, and we were nurtured or we weren't nurtured, whatever your circumstances were? We can blame our parents, our caretakers, our circumstances, whatever. It is what it is, but it doesn't leave you stuck there emotionally. It doesn't. I mean, you can look to people who have inherited massive wealth or their folks were super rich and they were trust fund babies before the time they were even born. And they end up being very emotionally stunted. Then you can find people, the same thing, that grew up in abject poverty, the bottom of the barrel, and they stay stunted. But what about the people that come from those circumstances that don't? What's the difference with them? And I'll make a case is that they commit to personal development, what matters, transcending the economic situation, the environmental situation. They're amazing. And those success stories are everywhere. They're everywhere. So we have to understand that no matter what those circumstances were in our childhood, they don't prevent us from having this emotional growth. And so if we stay stunted and stuck there, I'll guarantee you that's at the core of blaming everyone else. Why? Because that's what kids do. When we're children, we throw a tantrum to get what we want, and that's what we do. Now, as much as the parent or the caregiver takes umbrage with that and gets upset, no, stop crying, and whatever you do to deal with that, I get it. But a lot of us never grow out of it, and we're stuck in it. In fact, Nobody completely kicks the habit of throwing a tantrum. Nobody does, especially when you're tired or you're hangry and you haven't had enough to eat, enough sleep. And we get angry, we get ornery. That's just the way human emotions are. So that growth is always challenged at some level or the other for all of us. Right? Presuming that you're not a cyborg and you have the ability to feel emotion, your growth will be one of the biggest challenges. So recognize that and recognize how it's going to play a role in who you blame for the lack of getting out of that stage, right? The second point here is our desire to grow, right, can get us moving in the right direction. It will lead us to seek different environments and mentors. So as I think about my twin boys, I know that as they grew up as athletes and they were students in a particular school system that had worked fine for their three sisters prior, I could see that something in the environment was just not going to be the best place for them to grow. And so we broached the subject of changing schools, which was a pretty significant geographic change for them. And we discussed it. And I could see that they themselves wanted to grow, and they themselves began to lead themselves. Yes, my wife and I offered the opportunity to them, but they sought it out, right? They sought it out. They wanted to athletically and academically, each a little bit differently. They both began to seek it out because they wanted these new environments. As much as it scared them, they wanted them. They wanted new teachers, new coaches, people that would push them. So their desire to grow, and again, please, as a good mentor or a leader of younger people, experientially encourage them to grow, especially in the areas where they have a certain passion. They have a certain love for it. Stop being white-knuckled, trying to turn young people into what you believe they should be. It's the kiss of death for that child. And then they will begin to blame you, right? At some point in time. Now, for all of you that are that person that are being told what to do and you feel like you have no say in it, that there's no seat at the table for you, don't use that as an excuse to stay stuck there. Because as time goes on and continuum and you become an adult, especially if you go off to school, you're making a lot of your own choices, right? Even if somebody's supporting you financially, how you behave academically, how you behave socially in that environment. Or if you're off to you decide you're going to go pursue a career straight away and you go across the country, right? Just understand that we're all trying to control something too much. Do a little, I would say, monk training. I love some of the warrior monks that are on YouTube, where we have to learn how to become detached from the outcome. Stop being so white-knuckled around an outcome because you think that's the right thing to do, because you think that's the only way to make a living. Open up your mind so that you even know that there are a variety of environments. There are myriad mentors who have already done what you might really desire to do, not what you've been forced to do, not what you're forcing yourself to do, not what you're scared to not do. All those things will lead you to desire this change that I'm talking about. And I know it's scary. I know you don't believe today, listening to this, that you can turn your passion into a living. You can. It happens every single day. You will find a way, even if you have to find alternate sources of income to support where you don't make as much money as, say, an artist, a teacher. Okay? So you'll do other creative things. But that desire, let it loose. Start to move in that direction of the new environment that is where people live and perform and do the thing that you want to do. And within that context, you'll be able to, these days, my gosh, you can cyber stalk in a positive way, folks. You can educate yourself about great mentors and teachers, and you can filter it for yourself. They're everywhere. There is no obstacle to pursue and to grow and to lead into that new environment and those new mentors. However, here's where the caveat comes in here, okay? And this is something near and dear to my heart as a father, now consulting and coaching my kids rather than really leading them as someone with a little bit more of a firm guidance hand to help them find what they want. I'm really trying to just become a consultant. So I'm transitioning. And I also spend an enormous amount of time every week coaching and training high-performing real estate agents who have come to me because even though they're high performers and they're doing well, some things are very wrong. Most of them come to me extremely stressed out. They've sacrificed their lifestyle over this pursuit of this business. And it's almost like they're addicted to the wrong things that are killing them. Even though from your eyes and other people's eyes, they might see success, they're not seeing what's behind the scenes. So be careful. All that glitters is not gold, as the saying goes, right? So the challenge when they come to me and I begin to work with them is that they'll presume that by changing certain circumstances, all will be well. So my message to them is very clear when they come to me. Look, you come to me with an infantile brain to manage you and your business. And so that's really hard work to develop that. You have to be ready for me because I'm going to come after those paradigms. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to push you because that growth emotionally as a manager of a business is maybe even more complex than just talking about yourself, right? Now, of course, they're intertwined, but the stress of a failed business situation will exacerbate the underlying insecurities, right? So you can't presume that once you begin this growth and you begin to get involved in these environments, go to a particular school, get a particular coach, whatever it might be, that's not the end. That's only the beginning. You've just pulled yourself up out of maybe a dark spot. Maybe a spot that doesn't even allow you to do what you want to do, whatever it might be. But you think that all is well now. Whew, I found you. Coach, mentor, teacher, school, environment, job, business, whatever. It won't be all well. And I get it. It's almost like swimming in circles and you feel like you're drowning and finally you find the door to get in and I can rest. No, you can't rest. Maybe you can tread water and relax a little bit into it and feel proud of yourself. But that's just the beginning of the learning how to do and how to improve finally, right? Because if you sit there and think all is well, subconsciously, not even necessarily consciously, you are shifting the burden off of you because you're exasperated. You're shifting the burden over to the environment, the new school, and its teachers and its mentors, right? You're shifting it. And you feel excited and there's exuberance because when you didn't know that this place even existed, you didn't know these systems, you didn't know that this thing could be real. My gosh, here they are. I found them. I found the clones of who I am, who I want to become. They're here. And you see what I mean? It's exuberance and it's excitement and it's relief. But you have to control that optimism. You have to control it. Optimism and excitement and newfound opportunity can drown you in your effort. You swam so far upstream to just get there. Don't stop swimming is the key point there. Because here's where people break. And again, I'm going to tell you experientially. Whether I'm dealing with people in the single largest financial and emotional transaction as a real estate broker or a coach or a father, I know when they break and I know when they start blaming. When they're at that point and they got there and they find out that even though it's a better place, there's still a lot of hard work. There's still a lot of resistance, right? In comes the resistance and it begins to say, yeah, you got here, but it's hard here, kid. You didn't really know it was going to be this hard. And oh yeah, you thought that what you did that was good, it got you the next level. And you got to look by that school. You got to look by that team. You got to look by that company. And then the door shut down. I see you don't really belong here. You should skid all the way back to that first level. That's the resistance. That's the animal brain saying, oh, hell no. Too many calories being burnt up here at this level. This is too much. We've got to retreat. And that's when you start to blame. If I had only got into the other school, not this one. If I had only gotten that teacher, not this one. If I had only gotten this coach. If I had only hired the right person. And we just start blaming. The inner child comes exploding out. Here we were. We kept that inner child and that blamer, that whiner. We had it under control because we had to swim through that hoop of fire. Right? Upstream through the hoops of fire, over the rocks and in. And we made it. But now We recognize it's just a new level. It's a new place where challenge comes. But see, if you made it that far, think about what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting you're in an environment that you decided you wanted. That was your passion. Now, within that global environment, you might find out that you're not the director, you're the actor. You might find out that you're not a defenseman, you're a forward. You might find out that you're not a STEM student. You're more of a medical student, right? See what I'm saying? So you maybe make some adjustments up there, but isn't it exciting? You've elevated. You've elevated the way that you see the world. Your perspective is broadening, but it doesn't get rid of all of the challenges. It only opens up new ones. So I think what I learned to do, by the way, I am totally guilty of this. I would not do a podcast on anything that I didn't bring my own humility and slap myself upside the head and say, I have made all of these mistakes I talk about in this podcast. And I'm just trying to give you my perspective of how I got through them. I can't tell you how many tantrums I have thrown in my lifetime because I'm a very passionate guy. I can be very emotional. But over time, I've come to accept this how-to way to get it all under control. Now, when I feel hangry, I go eat. I don't try to make big decisions. When I'm really tired, I don't try to do more work. I don't go to the gym. I sleep. And then when I feel rejuvenated, I look for the challenges. I look for where something could go haywire. And I can think of a couple circumstances that I'm dealing with right now, especially in the real estate context. I had one of the most difficult small windows of time to help somebody get through their emotion. And instead of throwing a tantrum that it wasn't easy and that it should be, I didn't do that. I calmed down, I got logical myself, and I began to keep my team members logical. I began to keep my clients logical, and we continued to provide solutions just constantly, relentlessly, and I stayed with it. And it worked. And it's working. It's not over yet. It's working. That's what we're doing, right? So by not being exasperated about it all these great solutions come, and I didn't blame my team. I didn't blame my client. I didn't do anything other than I kept it in front of me. And by the way, I reference a lot. You'll probably hear me say it a couple times now. I've been listening to a lot of Shaolin monk training. And especially the Mulligan brothers, I really like those guys. They do a lot of great interviews. So they've been bringing to the forefront a lot of the thinking of the Shaolin monk community. And I really like just the calmness with which this whole body of work really looks at the world, the lens through which they look at the world. And this is the last piece of it I'll leave you with. We're so attached to outcomes. We make a decision to move up and we just get really attached to what we think we're looking at, right? Instead of just moving in its direction more fluidly, more openly, less detached, so white-knuckled to that goal. And just get there first. Just get in that environment. I told my actress daughter, just get to LA. Just put your feet on the concrete. See what happens. And then make the adjustments as you're there. Don't try to say, I got to get this, I got to get it. It doesn't work like that. That's not what life is. And she did. She took more of a detached from the outcome approach. And she's in the middle of applying to schools for her graduate degree. And she just has a wonderful viewpoint on how to be detached now. And guess what? They're magnetizing it and she keeps making it uphill. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it's who you become in those moments, because you get there and you say, nobody can ever take away from me how I felt, what I did, how far I got, even if I didn't get to completely where I thought I was going to get. It's just who you become in those moments. And when you're like that, man, there's just no blaming. It's just such an awesome freedom and a real connection to the pleasantness of challenge in life, not the agony of the defeat you might perceive it to be. So let me go back and say these things, okay? Stop blaming everybody else, please. It's just the kiss of death for all of us. It's nobody's fault that we don't have what we want, including your own, right? Yes, you're going to have to take some steps in the right direction, or maybe you can say, I never took a step, and I suppose that blaming is something. I still think it's negative. So what do I say? How to do this? 1, recognize that emotional growth is one of the greatest challenges we will all ever face. Just accept it. It's going to be hard to get out of that inner child. 2, our desire to grow will lead us to seek different environments and mentors, and we will. We'll begin to swim up that stream because we're tired of being anxious. We're tired of being angry. We're tired of all these things. So start swimming upstream towards the thing you want. 3, we will presume that by changing certain circumstances, everything will all be well. I got into this place and everything's well. Not going to be. So you have to realize that no matter how well how good we become at getting to that next level, when we realize that even there it's not easy, then we'll stop all this blaming. We won't be ready to blame everybody else. We'll just be there and it'll just be what it is. Let me summarize it by saying it this way. Throughout our life's journey, we often experience a dissatisfaction with the outcomes we're experiencing. Those negative outcomes are the cause of much pain and suffering that lead us to seek these new environments and guidance from new mentors. However, that initial change is only the first step in that self-improvement. The next step is the realization that resistance does not ever go away. It is just part of the condition. So we must beware in those moments of resistance that our exasperation will seek an outlet to blame, right? It'll seek some outlet. It's got to blame something, that exasperation, when it feels that. So our target, when we do that, is usually somebody else. We point the finger. We extend that long arm, bend it back in, right? Bend it back in. And instead, what we need to see is yet another opportunity to improve. And we have to call upon our character, the person that we're becoming, so that we can persevere and continue to develop and learn. All righty. I know I get passionate during these things. Remember, you can take immediate action to get moving towards your goals because we take all the notes to help you from each episode and we post them for a short period of time at freethinkingtools.com. And then we give you instant access, okay? So there'll be a couple episodes where we have our writer go in, they listen, they organize it, they put them up there so that you have something that you can print out or digitize. You can think through these moments. You'll see a couple, so wherever you catch this podcast, just go to the latest and you can match up the episode, listen to it, and go to work, right? Also, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. We're in a bunch of spots. Or you can find us on our social media channels under the bonus section so that you don't miss out on any of the episodes. We'd also appreciate it, of course, if you join our mission of becoming people for others and share our content with other people just like you so that they get the help that they need. But remember, we sign off the same way all the time, folks. Nobody's coming for you. Nobody. So go get to work on yourself in a better plan for your goals. And we will see you in the next episode to help you do just that. Thanks for listening.